Hello there. Today we've got the video component of our blog article called The Negative Impact of Social Security Benefits on Other Family Members. So if you prefer a video exposition to reading, then you're in the right place. We're going to go over this particular article in regard to questions that I get asked quite a bit, or there's concern quite a bit about whether or not taking a particular election, Social Security election, is going to harm a spouse, or maybe a divorced spouse, or some type of situation like that. They're concerned that when or how they take a benefit is going to have a negative impact on others. So we want to look at that today. We wanted to look at divorce spouse benefits, and survivor benefits. So we tackled divorce spouse benefits first. So both divorce spouse benefits and spousal benefits are similar in that electing a divorce spouse benefit on an ex-spouse or electing a spousal benefit on your spouse doesn't have any kind of a negative impact on their own benefit. It doesn't take away from their own benefit. In particular, if you look at the divorce spouse benefit, you may have three parties involved. You may have the ex-spouse. You have two ex-spouses, basically, and that ex-spouse may have remarried. So you've got one individual, basically two individuals who are attempting to collect a benefit on the same working record of the same person. And Social Security doesn't penalize the ex-spouse or the spouse for any election that occurs there. So if you elect to take a divorce spouse benefit, as long as you're 62 and the divorce spouse, or the ex-spouse rather, is 62, nobody gets hurt or harmed. Nobody's benefit gets reduced or hurt in any particular way, shape, or form. And it doesn't impact or negatively impact any new spouse that is a part of the equation. They still have availability to the spousal benefit on their new spouse. Then we got spousal benefits. Keep in mind that spousal benefits with Social Security and divorce spouse benefits, really there's no difference in terms of the benefit amounts, the claiming age, the reduction of claiming early, the amounts, and everything that's related to these two benefits are identical with each other. The only real difference between a divorce spouse benefit and a spousal benefit is how to qualify for it. So the spouse needs to have been married at least 12 months in order to have a spousal benefit, and the opposite spouse has to have started their benefit in order for a spouse to begin a spousal benefit. Whereas with the divorce spouse benefit, the marriage has to have lasted 10 years or more. Both spouses, I should say both ex-spouses, have to have reached the age of 62 in order for that to begin. And the individual who wants to claim the divorce spouse benefit still has to be unmarried or single. So they can't have remarried. But in each circumstance, spousal or divorce spouse benefit, keep in mind, nobody's benefit is being harmed by electing the benefit. And then we look at benefit switches. Now, I make a statement here that says depending on a worker's age. I should have spent a little bit more time talking about what I mean by that. And that is kind of the grandfathering in the law changes back in 2015. Who gets to benefit from these benefit changes that I'm talking about? Well, it's individuals who were born after January. Let me back up and say that again. It is individuals who were born before January 2nd, 1954. I misspoke there. Say it one more time. Individuals who were born before January 2nd, 1954 have the ability to make these benefit switches, starting with one benefit, later on switching to a different one. If you're born January 2nd, 1954 and onward, then it's a different story. You don't have that ability to do that. But if you do have the option to do a benefit switch, let's say, for example, from a divorced spouse benefit to your own, from a spousal benefit to your own, something of that nature related to being old enough, those are two independent benefits of each other. So in other words, the divorced spouse benefits is its own benefit, completely and distinct from your own benefit. So if you elect to take a divorced spouse benefit at full retirement age, you haven't activated or started your own benefit, so it doesn't get negatively impacted in any way. It just continues to grow by 8% each and every year after your full retirement age, plus cost of living increases. And then if you switch to that, then you can activate it and have that higher benefit potentially available to you. Switching from divorced spouse to your own, switching from a spousal benefit to your own, if you qualify from an age perspective, doesn't hurt or negatively impact or isn't detrimental in any way to either one of those two benefits. That's what we're talking about in terms of benefit switches. In the last section here, we talk about the negative impact of a primary worker's early Social Security benefit. So here is where I like to focus time and attention to individuals who are thinking about whether to take early or whether to delay, especially if you're a married couple. The primary impact and the primary consideration that I encourage people to think about is, as a family unit, and especially for a surviving spouse. And a surviving spouse, not all the time, but sometimes it's going to be the female. They have a longer life expectancy, and they also have a lower working record themselves. So when the primary worker passes away, it's the surviving spouse that only gets to keep the higher of those two Social Security benefits. And so if the primary worker elects to take their Social Security benefit early, what is going to happen? Well, ultimately, the surviving spouse later on in retirement, when the primary worker dies, gets to take on the higher benefit, but it's going to be a reduced benefit. If it was taken early, then could be only about 75% of what it would have been at full retirement age, versus 132% of what it would be at age 70. So I really encourage individuals who are married and are looking at the timing of when to take a benefit. If the primary worker can feasibly stretch taking their benefit until age 70, not only does it help their retirement as the couple from having to take more money out of their retirement portfolio, but it ultimately benefits the surviving spouse, because that's the benefit. That higher delayed benefit is going to be the benefit that surviving spouse is able to take with them past retirement. It could be decades long of being a widow and having the benefit of that higher Social Security benefit. So that's a little bit of the video commentary related to this particular post. If you have questions related to it, you can certainly leave them in the comments, and I'll do my best to answer those.